Hi, and welcome to Purposeful Platforms. You're welcome today. Thank you very much for tuning in. I have a question for us today. I will give you the answer to my own answer to that question, but let me ask the question first. And my question goes: have you ever been in in any mode of transport that suddenly stops, that brakes were suddenly applied? And how did that make you feel when that sudden application of brakes happened as a passenger in the bus, in a car, in any kind of vehicle? How did you feel? I've been as a passenger in a bus, a car, that the brakes were suddenly applied, and it's a terrifying experience. And I can imagine if that happens, if you still have a long journey to go, you're not sure whether you arrive where you're going safe. That was me when I was a passenger. It has happened to me as a driver, when I'm driving, that in some cases I had to apply the brakes suddenly, abruptly, not planned. And it's scary. I'm sure many of us have experienced what I'm talking about here. And where I am going with this, like I've said in the previous video I have recorded on submission, that I liken submission to yielding in a driving situation. And usually, most times when you're driving, there are times that you have passengers in your car. And the marriage where God requires wives to submit to their own husbands, they are passengers in the marriages. Their children, they're the ones that I'm likening to passengers. They're children in your home. And those children, we are jamming them all the time. We suddenly apply brakes because we failed to yield when we were supposed to. Then when we see that we are in danger, or when we see that we are nearly getting into danger, that's when we think of, oh, I have to stop now. But the children have experienced that sudden application of brakes. They've experienced that heated argument, and it's not doing them any good. They still have a long way in our care, and constantly we are failing to yield, and it's affecting them. We are failing to yield, and it's affecting them. May God help us to yield ourselves unto our own husbands for the benefit of our children, so that we give them stability, not the uncertainty that is caused by failing to yield. God knows the situations, the challenges that we face, but He said, wives, submit yourselves. We are forewarned, and we have to obey. And what I have realized, what I have come to understand by submission, by me as a wife submitting, it doesn't benefit my husband more than it benefits me. It's more for my good than for him, because it reduces the things that I stress over. Let him be. He is the head. Mine is to submit, to support him. If I feel that the way he's going is not right, I don't have to really argue or to have a heated debate over it or to stand on his way. I'll just say my mind and yield, step aside, give him way. And it reduces stress. It reduces tension. Because most times when you're failing to yield, you're so tense, you want to win, you want to have your way where you're not supposed to have your way. Let him have his way. You yield. When it's your time, you will proceed. Just yield. Allow him to go. He didn't say stop, but it's submit, yield. When you are yielding, you haven't arrived. You still have to go. And that's what I am encouraging us today. If we fail to yield, there are consequences. And not just for us, but for the precious ones that we have in our homes, the children that God gave us. As I was thinking of how does it feel to be in a vehicle that just suddenly suddenly stops when it is close to a crash. It's a bad experience. I was reminded of an incident that happened when I was young. We were sent to go and collect something from the growth point with a scotch cat. We're told before we leave, there should be someone ahead of the cattle all the time. Do not let them just go by themselves. Someone has to be ahead. We were warned at home. When we left home, the adults that were in charge left the cattle. Nobody was ahead of them. Nobody was leading. We were now all sitting in the scotch cat. The cattle were being driven. And suddenly, the scotch cat overturned. I was one of the people sitting there. It is by the grace of God that none of us broke a bone. None of us was injured. We had probably a few bruises. But it was a nasty incident. And after that, nobody told my cousins to go ahead of the cows, because we had seen what could happen and we were imagining the worst. That gave us some soberness. The word of God has warned us that wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands. And we are not listening. We have disregarded that warning. And right now, some marriages, because of failing to yield, they are like a scotch cat that is now going on its side. Some have overturned simply because we are failing to yield. May God help us to obey His word, especially for the sake of the children that we have in our homes, who we are putting through a lot of uncertainty, simply because you as your mother, you're being selfish. You do not want to yield. And the yielding is for your own good. Try it. The submission, it's for your own good. Try it and see that you become less tense. You become relaxed. The heated debates, heated arguments become less. And may God help us to yield ourselves. I say it's yield, it's submit. It's not stop. When you are yielding, you haven't reached your destination, you can continue. After those who want to be given way have passed, you can also continue. You're not stopped. Submission, like I said, doesn't mean that you're not an equal in that marriage, because the Bible says that the two shall become one. So we are one, but failing to submit is affecting our oneness. And may God help us to function as one. And one of the essences for us to function as one is submission. Let's do our part, ladies. We can do it by the grace of God. It's not in our own strength, but God can help us to submit wholly to our own husbands. God bless you. Thank you very much for tuning in. Bye.